What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
At Grand Canyon University, we believe in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's learning environments are designed for supportive networking and collaboration. With over 330 academic programs, GCU provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
Of the following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Jason Spees. You can catch Jason with This Week in Energy Sunday mornings right here on Super Talk 1270. And are you a fan of s'mores, Jason?
You know, I think I liked them more maybe when I was a kid, but I like the ones with Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh, you're one of those.
Oh, yeah, I'm one of those. That's right. And yeah, I don't mind a s'more occasionally. I'm not like one that will have to have one.
Yeah, it's not my have to have go-to mandatory if I'm sitting by a bonfire.
Ironically, I like each piece of the s'more individually, probably more. Like I like graham crackers just by themselves. And I like chocolate just by themselves. I don't really care for the marshmallow too much. I do like that toasted. I like a marshmallow toasted over a fire.
Oh, you got to burn it. You got to burn a marshmallow. You got to get that thing cooking. It's like golden brown. No, flame that sucker up, blow it out, and try not to burn your tongue on the way going down. Because
golden brown, that's like green energy, man. That doesn't happen.
You got to burn a marshmallow. I'm not talking like crispy briquette, but you got to get that thing on. Catch it on fire. That's me with marshmallows, because it's so cool when you pull the coating off and then the marshmallow underneath. It's like, and like the crunch but you don't want it ashy. That's the key. You don't want it to like burn so much it's ashy. Just like ignite it and blow it out right away. But the Reese's peanut butter cup thing is kind of interesting because I was just turned on to that maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I'm like, this is pretty good. Where you take the Reese's peanut butter cup and put it between two graham crackers and cook that up and get it melty. And that's really good. The reason I bring this up, I digress. Now I'm craving s'mores and Reese's peanut butter cups on graham crackers for some reason. But the reason I bring this up is congratulations to the folks up at Fort Stevenson State Park and the tourism department, and they put together a brand new, it's been certified Guinness Book of World Records record for the most people making s'mores. I think they was a previous record like 840 some or something like that, and they crushed it. Absolutely.
891.
That was the old record or the new record?
891 was the old record. Yep.
Okay. And they blew it out of the water. They crushed that. So North Dakota's got a new state record.
How about that? Yeah. What do you make of that story, by the way? To me, I have some mixed feelings on that story.
Why so?
I'll be honest.
That's a good fluffy story. Marshmallow fluffy story. Pun intended.
I agree. It is a nice, fun, fluffy story. It really is. And with the workforce shortages and with the economy the way it is and with record layoffs and everything else, it just makes me wonder if that's really what we want our government doing right now.
Wait a minute. No. Think about this though. Think. So this is about job creation. So
Okay.
and an educational piece. So you get a bunch of people who are unemployed together. So because they got the spare time to go set a new world record, and the state recruits them in, and they're going to give them a free meal, s'mores, and they've got the time to do it. A little education on how to make a s'more, and then Commerce Department's going to run with it. And you know what? The Commerce Department's probably going to take every one of those people that was there setting that new record, and they had a job for the day. So
I tell you what,
they're
Steve,
part of the
I'll be
workforce.
honest.
The
I'll be
workforce now.
honest. So the 1,150 people, correct?
Had a part-time job.
Went out to Fort Stevenson State Park to set the new Guinness World Records. And this was organized by the state, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. When you go and you take a look at the one that was done in Texas in 2023, it was a private company that went to the community around Dallas Worth or whatever the case is, and they actually launched like a s'mores stove, like an indoor-outdoor s'mores stove type thing. They set up 500 of them, and
I've seen those.
They had 8. Right, they did it to launch a private campaign type of a thing. Here, the state, what are they bored? What I mean, what created this? Who started this? Because my second question is, out of the 1,150 people, how many of them are state employees? Was this just a big s'mores field trip? Was this what this was? Was this a big s'mores field trip out to Fort Stevenson State Park so 1,100 state employees could have social media content for the day? Is that what we're talking about, Steve? What was the rationale for this? Is there a tourism campaign tied to this? Is the s'more going to be the state snack this summer?
We lost Dot's Pretzels.
I want to go a little bit further here.
Hey, now Dot's Pretzels went away because that's no longer a North Dakota company anymore. So
exactly,
we're looking for a new state food, I guess. So
okay, great. So furthermore, out of these 1,150 people that showed up, Garrison Area Improvement Association, McLean Electric Cooperative, CHI St. Alexis, Highway 83 Lawn and Leisure, Highway 83 Manufacturing, Farmers Union, Oil Cenex, True Community Bank, PNC National Park, Shields, Dairy Queen Grill and Chill, Krause Market, Four Seasons Restaurant, Basin Electric Cooperative Power, and Otter Tail Power Company. Holy crap, Steve. That is some sponsors beyond belief. So not only did they use state money to plan this whole thing, they used state money to be involved with the whole thing, and they went and got sponsors for it too. This is an unbelievable field trip. Seriously, I want to know everybody who showed up to this. Do they work for these sponsors? Was this a public-private s'mores event for the sponsors? If you come, you can come and take a day off from work. Like, in all honesty,
no. You're working. If you run up there, you're working. It's part of the PR campaign, part of marketing.
I get it. I sound like I'm Captain Buzzkill, but you know what? There's a lot of people struggling right now. And if this is what North Dakota is doing, they need to redefine what government is, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, is there a reason? Are we even a marshmallow producer? I know that we produce a lot of things.
Well, we might produce some flour for graham crackers. That might be.
I know that we actually produce those
and Hershey's,
those fake crab sticks.
Yeah,
why not do a fake crab stick boil? Huh?
Oh,
I mean, that's not in North Dakota.
I'd be in on that.
You see what I mean? Like what? That I want to know how this started, because I really believe that this is just a bunch of people playing business, and a bunch of people playing house, and a bunch of people trying to what is this for real? In what government do you expect to have them try to break a s'mores record and then actually go out and use the power and the public trust of the government to go get sponsors like Shields? Do you think the Bakken Oil Business Journal or the Tioga radio station or many of the other media outlets that have gone out of business in the last decade would like some Shields dollars? because that's the same pot Shields takes it from. When Commerce goes out and tries to do one of these, look at us, we're like a magazine, Shields takes it out of their marketing budget. There's not a special government-only budget. No.
How do you know that?
That comes out of the marketing budget.
In today's economy, how do you know that? There may be. It might be pay to play. Who knows?
It very well could be. It very well could be. I doubt it. But you know what?
There's honestly, a lot of other stuff. Hey, tell you what, we're up against the break. Let's come back and finish this up when we come back. I'm Steve Bakken. This is Talk of the Town on a Wattage Wednesday with my co-host Jason Spiess, the s'mores hater. You can catch Jason on This Week in Energy on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spiess from This Week in Energy. Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. And Jason, a very well-known s'mores hater, but you bring up some interesting points in the fact that what does the new economy look like here in North Dakota? And
Steve, let's just take a pause for a second and juxtaposition that with a place that you and I both came from. Okay, let's acknowledge the fact that KFGO AM has been a long-standing community radio station for 50 years in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Okay,
absolutely.
Okay, every year they would do this thing, the KFGO picnic. And they would go and get a ton of sponsors. And it was a lot of work. It was a ton of work.
You and I both helped out on that for many years.
I know that you know because all the other radio stations had to pitch in. Otherwise, I love Nancy Odney to death. Nancy Odney would come down on you. So you better go help to do this, right? Because she understood that this could be a very big community builder and moneymaker as well. It was all, you know what I mean? It was like all the boxes were checked. That's what Commerce did right there. That's what the state did. They took that away from someone else. Because when you take a look at what the state has gotten into with their party planning and their event planning, the media companies used to do that and event planning companies used to do that. Well, they're all drying up now. Like I saw the other day that the state was trying to do a content generators conference. Well, not only did I win a bid to do that and the state decided to cancel it, we actually tried to do it a few times as well. But secondly, media companies do this as well. And they have professionals. They don't have somebody that's just copying and pasting stuff off of a website. So why is the state getting into trade show businesses and other things too? I've said for a long time, if you think I'm crazy, okay, let's just change the conversation then. How come the state isn't in the engineering business or in the real estate business? Why do you need a private realtor? We could just have it be a government service. What do we need an engineering firm for? We have computers and we have software. We could have a panel take care of all that stuff. We'd save billions of dollars overnight. Oh, now all of a sudden people are going to get upset. You can't do that. But yeah, you can have the government go compete with a bunch of people to go put on a s'mores party and have a s'mores field trip. Seriously, I bet that cost the state millions yesterday. Millions, Steve. I'm getting worked up the more I'm thinking about it now.
You know, it gets you even more worked up. Some more spending from Commerce.
Yeah, you like how they're in the carbon business now? All of a sudden, they're going to, after fighting everybody for a decade, they're now the leaders. And we're going to decide who's in charge of the carbon management business. We're going to give it to this outfit over there. They killed $1 million worth of trees. We're going to give it to that firm right there. They haven't hit one of their EPA goals in 20 years. I mean, it's the same old, Steve. It's absolutely, it's atrocious what's happened in the state of North Dakota. Absolutely atrocious.
You're right on the marketing side of stuff. And when you start dipping into the private sector, and I'm a big fan of P3 projects, public-private partnerships. When everybody has skin in the game, it's a better outcome. But when you've got,
make sense.
state dollars taking, when they make sense, when you have state dollars taking over marketing campaigns for what? Because I don't see any positive outcome other than somebody sitting in a cubicle just validated their job for another 6 months because, hey, we pulled this up. Look at us.
Steve,
ring the bell for North Dakota because we set a Guinness Book of World Records making s'mores. And the time and the effort that went into that, just like the podcasting stuff. Now, this is something that a private group normally in the past would grab onto, and you'd talk to your local newspaper, your local radio station, maybe the local TV station, and curry some press and get the word out and like, hey, everybody, we're going to set this new record. Come on down to Fort Stephenson State Park, and we're going to set this record. And you get all the logistics lined in, probably bring in a grocery store that's going to be supplying the s'mores, the graham crackers and the Hershey bars and the marshmallows.
Imagine it on 4th of July. Imagine that on the 4th of July. Okay. Not the week before school's out because a bunch of people want to go have some social media field trip at work before the kids come out of school. That's where I was
going with this, Jason, because
that's what I'm saying.
If this is taking place before school is out, you think about s'mores and campfires. It's not for adults.
You think of them with your family and kids at the lake.
Kids. Yeah, it's about the kids.
Right,
okay, wait a minute. But you're doing an event when school's not out. So how readily available are kids to come to this event, which means you're going to have thought workers in the Commerce Department and the Tourism Department.
They try to be like this happiness machine that's like part Valley Girl and part like Kardashian so that they can like have s'mores and so that you can't like get mad or complain.
But they play stupid when it's convenient to them.
I know. Of course they do. They play it both ways. That's the way the North Dakota government's been set up. It's so that the people in power can always disagree with you to keep moving forward. That's how they do it. That's why I call Lynn Helms homonym Helms, because he uses words that he can change the meaning of. Just like when he's testifying, he can change if he's a regulator or he's using his opinion as a lobbyist. They're chameleon. Like Senator Hoeven, he'll tell you something, ethical to your face, and he'll go do the opposite behind your back. I've said this for a long time. I don't even think Senator Hoeven hits 50% on the 10 Commandments. So I don't know about you, Steve, but I don't want to take my ethical guidance from somebody who can't even get 50% on the 10 Commandments. Now, take a look at Commerce, getting back to them and how they like to play happiness machine, and they want to make sure that they're the cool kids at the party, and they can pick and choose and play kingmaker and help out these businesses, this and that. Go to the good life. Take a look at the businesses they promoted. Most of them are out of business now. Commerce puts out more business than Guy Fieri.
I think I saw the last time that, that's funny, by the way. I think the last time I looked, it was, 14, 15 people maybe came to the state of North Dakota at a cost of like $1.1 million per person or some ridiculous number.
How many of those 15 people?
That's what that program attracted.
And how many of those people went to the Toasted Frog to go have some pickle spears wrapped in ham, deep fried with some cheese, just so they can thank Commerce? Because remember, that was their marketing. Go have the pickled spears at the Toasted Frog, and you'll thank us.
Yeah, but our Toasted Frog in Bismarck closed.
It's like that. It's like that one guy from Commerce that they have, that Richard German jackass who acts like he's going to now be in charge of nuclear. Push Dwayne Sand aside. Push aside a Navy man who's been trying to promote nuclear for 20 years, and now you got this jackass Richard German who puts out on social media like, "You're welcome, North Dakota. You're welcome."
Now I got a point. We're up against a break. We're going to come back and talk nuclear when we come back from the break. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Now you
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
1270 on Alexa.
Hiya, Find out how at supertalk1270.com.
Goodbye.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Baca along with Jason Speech. You can catch Jason Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270 with This Week in Energy. And by the way, it's Rich Garman, as in
what? Who knows? What's his name?
Yeah, Rich Garman.
It doesn't matter what his name is. It doesn't matter what his name is because he's nothing more than an appointed partisan hack. He's an appointed partisan hack. Richard German or Garman, whatever his name is over at Commerce, he's appointed to go and do some new business development. And his manners on social media should be examined by the ethics committee personally, because seriously, he's using the state of North Dakota like it's his company. You know, his language is like he's the one doing all this. I mean, I've never
back up for 1 second. Back up for 1 second though, because look at the culture that was created in Commerce by the governor.
Right,
Governor Burgum created that.
Without a doubt. That's created what I'm saying. They all create it like it's theirs.
Yeah.
They act like it's theirs.
But it's interesting, the people I've seen that I've known
out of control.
But the people I've known in Commerce for a long time, it's amazing watching how far down the rabbit hole they've gone because, hey, we're going to get all this free money and we're going to get all these projects and job security and this and that. Like people with values, people with North Dakota values. And I've watched them change under the Burgum administration. It's sickening. It's disgusting to me, Jason. What Burgum has done to the state of North Dakota is a travesty. He's created the globalist utopia that we all should be fighting against, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, Libertarian, doesn't matter. The globalist agenda is what we should all be fighting for. Screw your partisan politics. There's a bigger evil out there that we need to fight against. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, I want to come back and talk about the nuclear because a very good friend of mine, Dwayne Sand, sub driver, Navy captain, drove a nuclear submarine. He was a captain on a submarine. He had been talking, and when I used to do a different energy program on a different radio station, him and I would have the conversation all the time about North Dakota and all of the above energy policies. But what's missing? Nuclear. And we should have a nuclear power plant in the Red River Valley because it's stable. It has water. There's so many positives. And if you want to talk green energy, if you really want to go down that road of green energy, it's nuclear. It's the safest, most economic, green form of energy there is. And Dwayne had spoken up at legislative session or interim conference stuff a couple of weeks ago. And that's why I had an opportunity to speak with him. And now there's a little uptick in interest after Dwayne for well over a decade had the door slammed in his face every time he talked about why do we not have a nuclear power plant here in North Dakota. And he worked for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. He was inspecting them. He is quite aware of how safe they are. If you go back and think about it, so Jason, think of what pops into people's minds. And then we have to look at why. Okay, so Fukushima. Okay, well, you don't build a nuclear power plant in a tidal zone that's subject to a tsunami. Human error. Chernobyl, Russian technology. It's horribly antiquated, outdated, and shaky at best. Again, bad technology, human error. And people jump to 3 Mile Island. But look at 3 Mile Island. Was it a nuclear accident? Well, the plant scrammed, but it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It shut itself down and contained. There wasn't a leak. There wasn't anything. And that was that's old technology. New technology today is so far beyond what any of that looked like in the United States. It's amazing. In fact, how many people, I wonder, drive down to Minneapolis from North Dakota and don't realize when they're going by Monticello that if you look off to the north side of the interstate, you're looking at the nuclear power plant there, and it's fairly close to the interstate. Oh, wait a minute. And when the Obama administration had shut down the storage facility that was mandated by the Reagan administration, or Reagan started, Bush finished it, to have a nuclear storage facility for nuclear waste in Nevada. They shut it down under the Obama administration. And I think it operated for a couple days or a week. Well, so then the nuclear industry had to scramble and figure out, okay, what's a different pathway, because we need to store nuclear waste. It's not a lot of it, but there's nuclear waste. And if you're driving to Minneapolis from North Dakota and you look to the Monticello nuclear plant, the waste is stored even closer to the interstate because it's between the plant and the highway. And it's perfectly fine. All the casks are there and it's safe. It is just safe. So if you want to talk green energy, you have to talk nuclear, Jason. It's got to be in the discussion. So I'm very glad to see the conversations coming back around in North Dakota about nuclear, because you have to have water, you have to have stability so you don't build it on fault area. And we've got all that. We've got all the geologic pieces to have it here in North Dakota. Heck, we got yellow cake uranium sitting on the surface over in the Badlands. And people don't realize that either. Yeah, don't play with that rock. It's probably a bad idea. but it's safe, Jason. So the conversation coming back is good, but firmly, I will put this and give every bit of credit where it deserves, and that's Captain Dwayne Sand with the U.S. Navy retired. He's the guy that has been speaking this and has had the door slammed in his face for political reasons for far too long.
I used to have him on back in 2010, back in KFGO days, man, back in when I was there. So he was back in 2010. He wanted to build a nuclear reactor on the east side of the state between Fargo and Grand Forks somewhere. There might have been north of Grand Forks, but I've always been a fan of nuclear. I understand that they have their issues, but you know, every industry has their issues, and nuclear has been fairly on the positive overall versus negative, you know.
Well, let me throw this out here though, because what what people have to understand is Homer Simpson is not running a nuclear plant, nor will he ever.
But that shows you how safe they are. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, nuclear has their issues. Where I became really sold on nuclear was when they came out with the micro nuclear grids, and those are really safe, very safe.
Actually, Dwayne and I had an opportunity to talk about that, and that is an entirely different technology. It's apples to oranges. I mean, you think nuclear, right? And you see these big plants, and then you've heard about these little pocket plants, and you can do local nuclear. The technology is entirely different. And I didn't realize that either until I had a conversation with Dwayne. And it was pretty fascinating. We're up against the break. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spiess, my co-host on Wattage Wednesday. You can catch Jason with This Week in Energy Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spiess. You can catch Jason Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. with This Week in Energy right here on Super Talk 1270. And you're tuned to a Wattage Wednesday. All right, nuclear. In fact, we're going to talk with Dwayne Sand coming up next hour. Got an opportunity to sit down and visit with him. And we're going to run that interview next hour because it's fascinating on the ins and outs and everything you need to know about nuclear power. And we barely scratched the surface of all the information that's out there. But could we be getting a nuclear power plant in North Dakota? Well, it takes about 10 years to build one. So we should probably start now, Jason.
So I'd like to say something about this that I don't think a lot of people have thought of when it comes to Dwayne Sand, nuclear energy, and the state of North Dakota. During the last segment, you and I gave a little context that through the course of our careers, we've been interviewing Dwayne Sand on a somewhat regular basis regarding nuclear energy since 2010. And I can tell you, Dwayne has done it in studio multiple times in Fargo, driving from Fargo. We've done.
He is a road warrior.
Yeah, he's invested a lot of time into this because Dwayne Sand is an entrepreneur. I believe he's got a pizza place around Bismarck. He's got he had a water company, I think, for a while.
Does. Yeah, actually, he still has a water company. He's been up in the Bakken for 13 years now. He's got an apartment up there, and he spends bulk of his week officing out of Williston.
So here's how the state of North Dakota and Commerce and Senator Hoeven and all these different inner circle Republicans take advantage of people like Dwayne Sand. So Dwayne Sand's a true entrepreneur. He's not an emerging prairies, Rob Lindbergh back the Bakken entrepreneur that needs a whole staff. And
he doesn't wear skinny jeans.
And 6 figures from the government. But no, that's very important. These new entrepreneurs, they have nonprofits that are funded by the government with a staff. So if all of a sudden in my small business, I've got a full staff and a paycheck that I don't have to worry about to focus on my business, that is a completely different playing field. So Dwayne Sand has invested at least 15 years in research in nuclear energy. So what? Commerce is going to push him aside and say, we're going to do the research now. So what they do, what the state does, and the people in charge, they wait for people like Dwayne Sand to exhaust themselves financially, medically, family-wise, whatever it might be. And then when the money's ready, they grab it from the feds, and then they push people aside. But by the way, Dwayne's given a lot of his information to the state, just like I know I gave a lot of my information to the state for 10 years. That's why I stopped, because every time they'd ask for something and then ghost me, well, they kept my intellectual property, and then I see it used in other areas. So that's what the state likes to do, is they hold you back. They try to drain you of your resources. They wait until Obama or Biden tells them what to do, or Trump, whoever the president is. They wait for the president to tell them what to do. Then they take the money, and then they go find their own people. Because I guarantee you, Dwayne Sand is not going to be the head of the nuclear division, which he should be. They're going to go find their own person. That person's going to have to spend 3 to 5 years being trained, having to figure out how to do it. I mean, Steve, they're going to go find an industry plant. Take a look at what's going on in our industry. There's people that invest tons of money into individuals who have never been in media in their life. But because they're spending other people's money, they don't care how much they waste. That's the thing North Dakota's gotten into, is extremely wasteful. And they like to do it with some government money. That's how they like to do it, these people, Steve. So I think it's what's happened with Dwayne Sand here with nuclear has done a great job to show the template of really how the abuse happens in North Dakota, how they just really abuse their own people, their own entrepreneurs, because they should be helping Dwayne, not going against him. He's been trying to get this thing going for 15 years. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
Well, it's just one of many examples too. And if you read that article that Lori Hintz from Beck News dug up and sent to us earlier this morning, and I had read it, but I kind of skimmed over it back last year when it came out, because it was shortly after Governor Burgum had spoken and gotten, lied, frankly, down in Iowa while he was on the campaign trail. And he was cited in that article as such too. And basically the article was talking about how the globalist agenda has been created here in North Dakota, and how Burgum is associated with WEF and Davos and Soros and all these other globalist agenda co-conspirators, including Bill Gates, and the article really fleshed out the associations there, and that's what he's built. Commerce is just an example of what the culture that has been built by Governor Burgum here in North Dakota, and it's all for the benefit of that elite group of individuals. They're not Republicans, they're not Democrats, they're globalists. And when you take a look at what Commerce is doing, it's like everybody that's working at Commerce, like, I'm so happy to have a job. And they're very happy with the crumbs. Well, it's time North Dakotans stand up and say, we're not happy with the crumbs. You know, look where the last 8 years has gotten us. Higher electricity rates because of what? Some projects that are data mining so that the money can get sucked out of the state. And economic development has not, which is what Commerce is supposed to be doing, has not benefited North Dakotans in any way, shape, or form unless you're one of that 0.5% and buddies with the governor. That's the only people, those are the only people that have benefited from any of this. Average Joe public taxpayer has been put in a bad situation, and it's getting drastically worse. And you take a look at all the co-conspirators, all the enablers, because I consider Commerce and a lot of these other government agencies enablers to that agenda, Jason.
I heard the Williston Basin Petroleum Conference wasn't even about oil and gas last week. It was more about
it was a carbon conference.
Yeah. So, I mean, take a look at what's happened to the oil and gas industry. We don't have any companies here. Most of the booths that were at that conference were government agencies, whether it's the Minot Economic Development Corporation or Train ND or the Bismarck Chamber. Those are all public-private, controlled by the government. So you take a look at a lot of these conferences now. It's the government going to the government. It's field trip on top of field trip.
I did have an opportunity to talk to a friend of mine in an individual from a sizable oil company and his family company. And I asked him about, because he asked me what was going on. I'm like, well, we're fighting this Summit Carbon Solutions CO2 scam. And oil man, prominent oil man. He's like, I don't get it. What the hell is with this shell game, this Ponzi scheme, these carbon credits? What a bunch of BS. I'm like, wow, that came from an oil guy. How refreshing. He goes, we need to get back to doing business that we do. We're in the business of producing oil. Well, that's fine and dandy, but the cards are stacked against you. You've got administrations and agendas that are not promoting doing business like we should be doing business. There's a political agenda behind this, and that's what's got to get cleaned up, because I don't fault a lot of the oil companies for playing the game, but the game's wrong. It's the wrong game we're playing. And that's when political agendas cross the line. You don't politicize agendas like that. Separate them, leave them alone, let the private sector do what the private sector does, and everybody's going to benefit. But we got to get the regulation out of the way.
There used to be a time when policymakers had values, and now they just chase money. Seriously, because if the policymakers would have values, this wouldn't be a problem, because they wouldn't get into areas they don't need to get into.
You're right, and they get into a lot of places that they shouldn't.
In all honesty, I want to know why the state of North Dakota felt the need to try to break the s'mores record. Why didn't we break, like
s'mores
the biggest, the catapult the cow? Why s'mores? Like I said, is that something that we produce as a state?
I want to get into pumpkin chunking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's
like
there's cool too. Tell you what, Jason, we're up against the break.
How about we all wear our state outfit one day and go out? There's 100 things they could have done. But anyway, we got to go.
We're up against the break. Great interview with Dwayne Sand coming up next about nuclear here in North Dakota. And, of course, you can catch Jason with This Week in Energy Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome to May 28th on the National Day calendar. Today, we're savoring some meaty delights.
Brisket Day celebrates a cut of meat with a rich history. Brisket, which comes from the breast of the cow, has been a staple of many cuisines. In the U.S., it's synonymous with Southern barbecue, where it's slow cooked until tender and smoky. But it's also the star of Jewish holiday meals, braised in a flavorful broth. So let's celebrate this versatile cut that brings us mouth-watering dishes.
Yeah, I really wish I could, Penny, but every year my mother has all the relatives over and cooks up her famous Terbriscafil.
Terbriscafil?
Turkey stuffed with the brisket, stuffed with gefilte fish.
Are you a brisket fan?
Absolutely. Am I human?
What is your favorite way to enjoy it?
On a hamburger bun with some barbecue sauce and some crispy onions.
I love that idea of onions on them. Yeah, that's fantastic.
What about you?
Yeah, I think the same way, actually. I like the crispy onion part of that, too. From the slow-cooked delight of brisket, we move to a fast food favorite. It's Hamburger Day. While the origins of the hamburger are debated, it gained popularity in America in the late 19th century. Now, whether it's grilled at a cookout, ordered at a gourmet restaurant, or served at a fast food chain, the humble hamburger has become a global culinary icon. So let's celebrate with the
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio. Follow us on...
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
Like us on Facebook, Super Talk 1270.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, and I came across an article talking about, hey, is there a reinvigoration of a discussion that was taking place, 2010, 11, 12, on whether or not North Dakota should have nuclear power? Because the discussion at the time was all of the above. North Dakota's got all of the above. We've got hydro, we've got oil, gas, coal, wind, some solars out there too. What do we not have? Okay, well, we don't have nuclear, which is kind of ironic considering there's yellow cake everywhere out in the western part of the state, but right on the surface, different discussion. So I thought I'd get a hold of one of my buddies, an old advocate of nuclear power, retired sub-driver, captain, retired U.S. Navy, Dwayne Sand, joining us in the studio. And Dwayne, you and I have had this conversation a lot in the past, different lifetime it seems like now, but nuclear, why does it make sense? And we see what's going on from a green perspective, whether you buy into that or not, but the conversation always comes back to nuclear, and is it safe?
Yeah, well, before we start with that, it's good to see you. This is my first radio interview in probably 6, 7, or 8 years. And I always...
been too long.
Yeah, well, when I was more active before I got so busy with my companies, I always used to be amazed at the voice of listening to a DJ like you, who's well known as you are statewide, and then what they actually look like. So I want to compliment you in front of your listeners, you know, and how good you look. You lost weight. You look younger, actually, since I went to your wedding.
I still have the face for radio, though.
Yeah.
Can't fix that, Dwayne.
And you said old supporter of nuclear. Well, I am old. I'm in my late 50s now. So, but
not that far behind.
I'm still a huge proponent. And in fact, recently I testified in a joint committee in the legislature. It was about a month ago, an interim committee about why we need to bring nuclear here. And I laid it all out because and these are the same things I've said for 12 years. We need nuclear because everyone's going to need nuclear. And everyone in the Midwest has or had nuclear power already. And that includes your listeners in South Dakota. In fact, the very first commercial nuclear power plant in America was built in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Can you believe that?
Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, people don't know that. It was called the Pathfinder. And it wasn't designed really well. It was only in operation less than a dozen years. And who built it was...
But it was early technology. It was early on, so they were still learning about the technology.
That's right. And it was only like a 100-megawatt reactor at the most. And NSP, the predecessor to Otter Tail, is who built it. And so when they decommissioned it, they improved the design, made it bigger, and moved it to Monticello, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people drive by it all the time when they are driving down to Minneapolis, and you look off to the side of the road, and hey, there's that nuclear power plant.
And if you don't know what you're looking for, you'll miss it because it's behind a bunch of evergreen trees. But there's a nuclear power plant, a couple hundred yards, for the property from the interstate, and the storage of their spent nuclear waste is sitting right there, even between that plant and the highway. So it's all over the country. America, our country, the greatest country in the world, was the first country in the world to invent commercial nuclear power. In fact, here's another fun factoid for you. The person considered to be the grandfather of commercial nuclear power in America is Al Gore's dad, a Democrat from Tennessee. In the 50s, he told the power industry, coal, hydro, all those guys, he said, if you guys don't start building nuclear, we're going to start building them. And they got the message, and nuclear power, building just rose sharply.
Wow, amazing family. So Al Gore's dad invented nuclear power for commercial use, and then Al Gore invented the interweb. All right. You keep saying commercial nuclear power. So, and I want to separate that because from a nuclear power perspective, a power plant perspective, you as a Navy guy, that's really where nuclear power kind of took off for purposes of powering things. And that's different from the commercial side of producing electricity.
Yeah, well, just as the commercial nuclear power industry was kicking off in the mid-50s, late 50s, Admiral Rickover in the Navy, anyone who's been in the Navy knows Admiral Rickover is the father of the nuclear Navy. And I've operated Navy nuclear power plants over a span of, close to 20 years when I was on submarines. And we use it primarily as a propulsion, right? But it drives everything else. I mean, there's main engines that are steam-driven, and then there's turbine generators that power the electricity that we use in submarines. So nuclear runs everything on a submarine. In commercial applications, it does one thing. It goes to a big old turbine that generates a massive amount of electricity. And as you said in your opening, it's 100% green. It's the safest, greenest source of power generation in America, and it's the only green energy, other than hydro, that can actually power the grid. And that's what we got to do. If people want to operate electric cars and not increase the carbon footprint of America, they got to build nuclear because there's nothing else. That or hydro dams.
Well, and it's funny because with what the mandates are doing to stressing the grid, there is no sustainable or viable solution unless you're looking at nuclear.
Right. None. There's absolutely none. It's a joke. The unfortunately, I don't want to get too partisan, but the Democrat Party and the Hollywood crowd are still opposed to nuclear. And yet the Democrat, Al Gore Sr., was the biggest part of the reason why we have nuclear. And now they've done a 180, but they're mandating electric cars and everything. But that just requires more coal and more natural gas to be burned to generate electrical power, which is all carbon. So you have solar, can't put it on the grid. You have wind, can't put it on the grid. You have hydro and nuclear. And we've been decommissioning nuclear at a crazy pace since about 20 years ago. We used to have 125, 30 commercial nuclear power plants. Now we're down to less than 100.
We're talking with Dwayne Sand, retired U.S. Navy captain, talking about nuclear power. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Mark.
Super Talk.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. We're talking with Dwayne Sand, retired U.S. Navy captain, submarine captain, and we're talking about nuclear power. And Dwayne, from where it started to today, you talk about some of the decommissioning that has taken place over at an accelerated pace over the last several years, but we're not putting on nuclear reactors and nuclear power plants anywhere near that or at all. I mean, it's almost non-existent industry right now, but it is the green solution if people want to talk about green technology. Where we started and where we are today, because people still think about Japan and Chernobyl and that's so far out of the realm of reality today in today's world. It's like Neanderthal day versus today. It's crazy how the technology's improved.
Yeah, it really is. A couple of things. There have been, 3 incidents. 2 are actually classified as accidents with nuclear power in the history of the world, commercial industry. The Chernobyl thing, which was designed by Russia, which I'll
enough said. Yeah.
Positive temperature coefficient, got hotter and became more reactive the hotter it gets, which is a bad thing to do. We've never done that in America. Fukushima, on the side of an ocean with tsunamis, very bad idea.
Just a bad place to put it.
Yeah. And then 3 Mile Island, which people don't even remember, don't really know, there was never a release of any radioactive material that left 3 Mile Island. It was all contained in the containment.
It did what it was supposed to do.
Exactly.
Did what it was supposed to do.
But, that's not what Hollywood made you think, or Jane Fonda in that movie, The China Syndrome, made people think. It scared people about nuclear. It's ridiculous. So we've decommissioned 30% of the commercial nuclear fleet in America, or even more. We generate less power than ever before from nuclear. Since 1984, the only new nuclear power plants built are 2 of them in Vogel, South Carolina. V as in Victor, OGTLE, if people want to look it up. 2 new plants, the only ones in 40 years built. And the last one built before that was in Clinton, Illinois. And I've inspected that when I worked for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So if you go to any industry executive in any branch of the industry, in energy industry, knows and doesn't even disagree that nuclear is the safest and greenest source of power you can put on the grid. It's just Hollywood and America's personal opinion, public opinion, was against it for many years, until about 10 years ago. When George Bush was ending his presidency, there were 16, roughly, applications for new nuclear power plants. And I started working for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission out of Region 3, the Chicago office, in 2009. And so that was the first year of Barack Obama's term. And so there was, I believe the number was 16. It was at least 12, but I think it was 16. So in April of 2009. By the summer of that year, the only one left, everyone withdrew them. The only one left that stayed in the system for approval was Vogtle, which got built literally 2-3 years ago. So think that's 10 years. It takes 10 years to build a nuclear power plant. We got to get started because it's the only way in the future. And again, because it's safe and green. So why North Dakota? I mean, I told the state senators and state legislators this last month in the Capitol. If you draw a line from Winnipeg, Manitoba, down to the Gulf of Mexico, along all the borders of those states in the Midwest, every single state on both sides of that line has or had nuclear power plants.
Okay, before we get to North Dakota specifically, there's a couple things I want to unpack here from what you said. And first of all, it's the technology. So from a safety perspective, it's there. But the methodology for nuclear plants has kind of changed a little bit, hasn't it? Because it used to be this, you had to build this big nuclear plant, and it's massive, and it has the thought process kind of gotten into, well, we need smaller, more localized regional plants.
Well, yeah, so that's a different subject. SMRs are called, small modular reactors. But there's literally, as of at least last year when I checked last, and I probably should have done that for your show today, there hasn't been, as of last year, a single plan that's actually been licensed and approved by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So all the commercial nuclear power applications still to this day, just like Vogtle built in South Carolina in the last few years, are 2,000, 3,000 total megawatts. These are huge, right? But the safety is much more improved, obviously, with computers and everything else and instrumentation. So it's a matter of how do you mitigate all the possible safety factors, right? What's one of them that I just mentioned with Fukushima?
Location. So, and that was where I was going to go next. So where do you put these? Because location matters. So from a safety perspective, you don't want to be right on the ocean within a tidal surge area if there's a hurricane. You don't want someplace with earthquakes.
Right.
You don't want someplace that's prone to wildfires. What are some of the other things that you should avoid?
Well, those are, and population centers, even though I think,
they're safe, but you don't want to put them.
But I mean, in northern Illinois, there's 13
you can put a
nuclear
CO2
power
pipeline
plants.
right by population centers, and apparently that's okay. But different discussion.
That's right.
Sorry, I had to go there.
So, but and not to say you put it in North Dakota because no one lives there, and so therefore we, sacrifice the people there.
But I remember some of our conversations back in the day. Is I'm like, why do we not have one in the Red River Valley?
Well, that's where it needs to go, and I'll tell you why.
Now, okay, so before we get into that, what do we need? So, you need water.
Yep.
You need, what else do you need for a good location for a nuclear power plant?
Geological stability, seismic stability, and the single safest location for seismic stability. The most seismic stable places in the United States of America are in North Texas and the entire state of North Dakota and northern Minnesota. But Minnesota is so anti-nuclear, they're never going to build a nuclear power plant. And North Dakota, when I say we, already provides power to the grid that goes to Boston. How do we do that? Well, the grid that goes to Boston starts in Monticello, Minnesota, literally. I'm a pilot, as you know. I've flown the power lines that we push DC power, direct current power, from up north of Bismarck here all the way to Monticello.
Yeah, from Coal Creek Station.
That's right. And they use it on the grid that goes to Boston.
Okay, now we know what we need. Now we're going to talk about North Dakota next. When we come back from the break, we're talking with Dwayne Sand about nuclear power. And is it time for North Dakota to step into that space with all of the above power that we supply to the grid and that we use locally? Captain, retired U.S. Navy submarine captain Dwayne Sand joining us on the program this morning. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
With everything you have on your plate, earning your degree online seems impossible. But at Grand Canyon University, we specialize in helping you fit a master's degree in business into your busy day. Your graduation team, led by your own GCU counselor, provides you with the personal support you need to succeed. Achieve your goals with a plan and team behind you. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Visit gcu.edu.
Back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. We're talking with Dwayne Sand, retired U.S. Navy captain, submarine captain, and we're talking about nuclear power. And Dwayne, from where it started to today, you talk about some of the decommissioning that has taken place over at an accelerated pace over the last several years, but we're not putting on nuclear reactors and nuclear power plants anywhere near that or at all. I mean, it's almost non-existent industry right now, but it is the green solution if people want to talk about green technology. Where we started and where we are today, because people still think about Japan and Chernobyl and that's so far out of the realm of reality today in today's world. It's like Neanderthal day versus today. It's crazy how the technology's improved.
Yeah, it really is. A couple of things. There have been, 3 incidents. 2 are actually classified as accidents with nuclear power in the history of the world, commercial industry. The Chernobyl thing, which was designed by Russia, which I'll
enough said. Yeah.
Positive temperature coefficient, got hotter and became more reactive the hotter it gets, which is a bad thing to do. We've never done that in America. Fukushima, on the side of an ocean with tsunamis, very bad idea.
Just a bad place to put it.
Yeah. And then 3 Mile Island, which people don't even remember, don't really know, there was never a release of any radioactive material that left 3 Mile Island. It was all contained in the containment.
It did what it was supposed to do.
Exactly.
Did what it was supposed to do.
But, that's not what Hollywood made you think, or Jane Fonda in that movie, The China Syndrome, made people think. It scared people about nuclear. It's ridiculous. So we've decommissioned 30% of the commercial nuclear fleet in America, or even more. We generate less power than ever before from nuclear. Since 1984, the only new nuclear power plants built are 2 of them in Vogel, South Carolina. V as in Victor, OGTLE, if people want to look it up. 2 new plants, the only ones in 40 years built. And the last one built before that was in Clinton, Illinois. And I've inspected that when I worked for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So if you go to any industry executive in any branch of the industry, in energy industry, knows and doesn't even disagree that nuclear is the safest and greenest source of power you can put on the grid. It's just Hollywood and America's personal opinion, public opinion, was against it for many years, until about 10 years ago. When George Bush was ending his presidency, there were 16, roughly, applications for new nuclear power plants. And I started working for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission out of Region 3 of the Chicago office in 2009. And so that was the first year of Barack Obama's term. And so there was, I believe the number was 16. It was at least 12, but I think it was 16. So in April of 2009. By the summer of that year, the only one left, everyone withdrew them. The only one left that stayed in the system for approval was Vogel, which got built literally 2-3 years ago. So think that's 10 years. It takes 10 years to build a nuclear power plant. We got to get started because it's the only way in the future. And again, because it's safe and green. So why North Dakota? I mean, I told the state senators and state legislators this last month in the Capitol. If you draw a line from Winnipeg, Manitoba, down to the Gulf of Mexico, along all the borders of those states in the Midwest, every single state on both sides of that line has or had nuclear power plants.
Okay, before we get to North Dakota specifically, there's a couple things I want to unpack here from what you said. And first of all, it's the technology. So from a safety perspective, it's there. But the methodology for nuclear plants has kind of changed a little bit, hasn't it? Because it used to be this, you had to build this big nuclear plant, and it's massive, and it has the thought process kind of gotten into, well, we need smaller, more localized regional plants.
Well, yeah, so that's a different subject. SMRs are called, small modular reactors. But there's literally, as of at least last year when I checked last, and I probably should have done that for your show today, there hasn't been, as of last year, a single plan that's actually been licensed and approved by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So all the commercial nuclear power applications still to this day, just like Vogtle built in South Carolina in the last few years, are 2,000, 3,000 total megawatts. These are huge, right? But the safety is much more improved, obviously, with computers and everything else and instrumentation. So it's a matter of how do you mitigate all the possible safety factors, right? What's one of them that I just mentioned with Fukushima?
Location. So, and that was where I was going to go next. So where do you put these? Because location matters. So from a safety perspective, you don't want to be right on the ocean within a tidal surge area if there's a hurricane. You don't want someplace with earthquakes.
Right.
You don't want someplace that's prone to wildfires. What are some of the other things that you should avoid?
Well, those are, and population centers, even though I think,
they're safe, but you don't want to put them.
But I mean, in northern Illinois, there's
you
13
can put a
nuclear
CO2
power
pipeline
plants
right by population centers, and apparently that's okay. But different discussion.
That's right.
Sorry, I had to go there.
So, but and not to say you put it in North Dakota because no one lives there, and so therefore we, sacrifice the people there.
But I remember some of our conversations back in the day. Is I'm like, why do we not have one in the Red River Valley?
Well, that's where it needs to go, and I'll tell you why.
Now, okay, so before we get into that, what do we need? So, you need water.
Yep.
You need, what else do you need for a good location for a nuclear power plant?
Geological stability, seismic stability, and the single safest location for seismic stability. The most seismic stable places in the United States of America are in North Texas and the entire state of North Dakota and northern Minnesota. But Minnesota is so anti-nuclear, they're never going to build a nuclear power plant. And we already, North Dakota, when I say we, already provides power to the grid that goes to Boston. How do we do that? Well, the grid that goes to Boston starts in Monticello, Minnesota, literally. I'm a pilot, as you know. I've flown the power lines that we push DC power, direct current power, from up north of Bismarck here all the way to Monticello.
Yeah, from Coal Creek Station.
That's right. And they use it on the grid that goes to Boston.
Okay, now we know what we need. Now we're going to talk about North Dakota next. When we come back from the break, we're talking with Dwayne Sand about nuclear power. And is it time for North Dakota to step into that space with all of the above power that we supply to the grid and that we use locally? Captain, retired U.S. Navy submarine captain Dwayne Sand joining us on the program this morning. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, along with Dwayne Sand, retired Captain, U.S. Navy, former submarine captain, talking about nuclear power and why does it make sense now in North Dakota. And I want to go back to when you were working with the Nuclear Regulatory Agency before we get into the North Dakota side and why now. Part of the reason all of those applications were withdrawn during the Barack Obama administration when that started was because of the storage facility, right?
Yeah. So in
lack of.
Yeah, that's even more accurate. So in the early mid 80s, the U.S. Congress passed a law that President Reagan signed that said the commercial nuclear industry shall design and pay for, using the national laboratories, Yucca, Los Alamos, places like that, to design a facility to receive and store for forever and ever nuclear material, used nuclear material, nuclear waste, whatever you want to call it. And so for 20 years, they did that. When I was going into my senior year at the Naval Academy in college, for lack of a better word, I interned at Los Alamos, and my job was to write a database. This is before Excel and Microsoft and the internet that Al Gore invented. And I had to design it, and I wrote a database that stored all the minerals and trace elements for Yucca Mountain in Nevada. So about 2006, 7, 8, they completed it. It was ready to receive. And at that time, Harry Reid was the majority leader in the U.S. Senate, and Barack Obama got elected, and they were buddies. And so right away, one of the first 2-3 months while Obama was president, those two guys shut down Yucca Mountain in violation of U.S. law. And that's why the industry went from 16 applications for new nuclear power plant construction to 1, almost overnight. And so we got to do something, about that. Well, time has passed. We got a new president.
So storage-wise now, without that central hub of storage, now those facilities store on-site locally.
Right. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission had to come up with a plan. I worked on the plan to store nuclear waste on-site. And that's why we talked about in the opening part of this segment that you can see the casks storing nuclear waste at Monticello next to the highway. Not 10 feet away, but, within a stone's throw away of the fence. So
can't we just shoot the waste into space and let it power our sun? And
I
so our
don't
sun
know about
doesn't
that.
eventually burn out?
But, smart people, hopefully, the American people, the public they've gotten smarter. The public is much more supportive of nuclear power. The NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, does polls. America's in more and more support of it because they know it's green, and they're in more and more support of green. When Doug Burgum first ran for governor the summer of 2016, I was talking to him one-on-one in his campaign bus right here in Mandan before the parade on the 4th of July. And he was very supportive of it. He hasn't done much in his administration, but I haven't talked to him since that day. So maybe he will be a part of the solution and pushing this nationwide. I know Donald Trump administration was on the verge of getting Yucca Mountain open again before the 2020 election. And, of course, he lost. So that got stopped because of the radical left-wingers in the environmental movement in the Democrat Party. So I think I'm hopeful. And we want to be at the front of that wave in North Dakota. We don't want to be in the back, playing catch-up.
So how was your message received when you spoke with the North Dakota legislators?
They asked some really good questions. They said, what's the very first day? They had some lobbyists from, various states in here, and, that young, good, well-intended people that just don't know a lot about nuclear. But they said, well, you basically hire us to figure it out and come back to you, I got up to the podium, and I just told them, you have to, the first step is a PSAR, a preliminary safety analysis report. It's the very first thing you do. It's the first thing that anyone does when you go to build something nuclear. You have to submit it to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And it's a study. And so I told the legislators, I recommended to them to, hey, fund this, and let's get this going. Let's get a study done so that we can show the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, whose permission we need to build this, that this is a great place to do it. And that's the first step. And then within 10 years from now, we could have a nuclear power plant in North Dakota. So that's what I want to do.
Well, when you take a look at what's going on with ratepayers and all the stress on the grid, because North Dakota used to be overly abundant with cheap electricity. And now you take a look at some of these data centers that have come on, and look what it's doing to the ratepayers. It's increasing my rates because of some different industry pieces that the governor's put in place. I got to pay for that.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at what took place down in Texas, and we had some rolling brownouts in North Dakota because of it several years ago, that's going to become the norm. And when there's brownouts and blackouts in North Dakota, which has always been an energy-rich state, it's time to have another discussion.
Yeah.
It really is, Dwayne.
Well, in that same meeting that day, there was other discussions about that very same thing you just mentioned, and I'm glad you keep your listeners educated on that. Central North Dakotans, which is a large part of the state, even east, I don't know how far, we're all paying higher electricity because there's a shortage of it up in the Williston Basin, the Bakken.
Mm-hmm.
We're sending more and more power to northwestern North Dakota to power the oil industry, and it's causing ratepayers here in Bismarck to pay more.
It's not just the oil industry, but look at the data mining.
Exactly, all that stuff. Well, that's where it's all located. Yeah. And I'm not trying to pick on the oil industry. I spent a lot of time in the oil industry, so I love it. But we just got to get more power, and we got to get it to the grid so that we can actually say these electric cars on the road are actually good for the environment, because the more and more electric cars on the grid right now is worse for the environment. Because how are they getting powered?
Yeah, it's
gas turbines and coal.
Not going to work right now.
That's right.
So nuclear. So the study, and what's the next step as far as visiting with legislators and keeping that momentum moving?
It's all about having an advocate. There's not a lot of people who are advocates because they don't understand it. I need to start spending more time pushing it and engaging back with the newspapers in the East, the colleges, some of the towns. I had town hall meetings in all up and down the Red River Valley in 2012. They're highly supportive of it. I just got to do it, and then I got to find a PSAR, and I got to find a company like Exelon out of Illinois to want to build one here and spend the money, because it's a private-public venture, and we got to make sure the public policy supports it, which they do, I believe, and we got to get money to build it, because it's not cheap. It's $8-9 billion to build one.
But it's a pretty good investment.
Oh, it's a great investment, and it goes for 70 years as of now.
Dwayne Sand, retired submarine captain, U.S. Navy, talking about nuclear, and it's time in North Dakota, but you got to have that discussion, and it takes 10 years to build one. Let's start having that conversation right now. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome to May 28th on the National Day calendar. Today, we're savoring some meaty delights.
Brisket Day celebrates a cut of meat with a rich history. Brisket, which comes from the breast of the cow, has been a staple of many cuisines. In the U.S., it's synonymous with Southern barbecue, where it's slow cooked until tender and smoky. But it's also the star of Jewish holiday meals, braised in a flavorful broth. So let's celebrate this versatile cut that brings us mouth-watering dishes.
Yeah, I really wish I could, Penny, but every year my mother has all the relatives over and cooks up her famous Terbriskafil.
Terbriskafil?
Turkey stuffed with the brisket, stuffed with gefilte fish.
Are you a brisket fan?
Absolutely. Am I human?
What is your favorite way to enjoy it?
On a hamburger bun with some barbecue sauce and some crispy onions.
I love that idea of onions on them. Yeah, that's fantastic.
What about you?
Yeah, I think the same way, actually. I like the crispy onion part of that, too. From the slow-cooked delight of brisket, we move to a fast food favorite. It's Hamburger Day. While the origins of the hamburger are debated, it gained popularity in America in the late 19th century. Now, whether it's grilled at a cookout, ordered at a gourmet restaurant, or served at a fast food chain, the humble hamburger has become a global culinary icon. So let's celebrate with the juicy burger customized with our favorite toppings.
I think I may have misjudged this restaurant.
No kidding.
I don't want to go out on a limb, but I think we may be looking at my new Tuesday hamburger.
Your old Tuesday hamburger will be so brokenhearted.
And those favorite toppings for you are?
Well, it's brisket day as well, so I think some brisket on top of a burger would be amazing.
Hey, you're picking up what I'm putting down. I'm liking this.
Maybe even some of them crispy onions on top of that would even be better.
With some smoky barbecue sauce?
Oh, I think that would be amazing.
Hey, let's go have lunch.
Okay, I am starving.
I'm LaToya Johnson.
I'm Marlo Anderson.
Thank you for joining us on our journey to celebrate every day.
And don't forget to share your brisket day and hamburger day celebrations with us using hashtag Destination Celebration Show. Until next time, keep celebrating.
Talk of the town. Local, interesting.
A lot of things going on with flood insurance in the Bismarck Mandan area and some things you need to know concerning the Missouri River and some changes that have taken place. And, well, are you even going to be able to get flood insurance?
Community events.
Home Builders Association Parade of Homes going on. Started yesterday. We'll get the update on that as well this weekend on Super Talk 1270.
Community organizations.
I'm Steve Bakken along with Sarah Kelsch from the Bismarck Cancer Center. I want to talk about the mission and where the mission has gone for those that are served that are dealing with the cancer fight.
What's going on in our community? That's Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. If you missed the show, check out the podcast on demand on the Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
Talk of the Town thanks our sponsors: Big Boy, Dakota Pharmacy, Benchmark Mortgage, Trademark Realty, Silver Ranch, and Runnings. Talk of the Town with Steve Bakken, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
The Ramsey Show.
So I am 20 years old, straight out of high school. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona to start my own business selling furniture.
What does selling furniture look like?
So I go around picking it up, clean it up, take really good pictures and sell it. I'll probably do about 100 grand this year net.
Wow. Some of you are standing around with your finger in your ear. And then you got a 20-year-old with a high school education that's making 100 grand flipping used furniture.
He's laughing all the way to the bank.
The Ramsey Show.
Starting at 5 p.m. weekdays on Super Talk 1270.
This is the Pet Minute. I'm Steve Dale. Stepping in it is no fun, but there are other compelling reasons to responsibly scoop after your dog. Next. Your dog loves going to the dog park and seeing his buddies. Maybe sometimes when you travel, he gets to hang out with friends at his favorite boarding facility. Social dogs like yours need more protection than most. By pairing Bordetella Protection, also known as kennel cough, with immunity against canine influenza, we can help ensure these dogs stay healthy. Merck Animal Health wants you to talk with your veterinarian about pairing up for protection with vaccines for your dog for kennel cough and the canine influenza virus. Don't wait, vaccinate. If your neighbors don't clean up after the dog, parasites are far more likely, and many, like roundworm, do affect people, and infections like Giardia. That's not to mention the increased risk of diseases spread only dog to dog, like canine parvovirus. And yes, it's a pain to scrape off the shoes. For the Pet Minute, I'm Steve Dale.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union Studio.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.